A decade later, the WFO 9 is back and ready for action, drawing on years of 29-inch mountain bike evolution. We've been lucky enough to get this bike well before the public will release to put some serious test miles, finding the biggest braking bumps we could possibly find here in Bend. This bike is ready for action and is not afraid to show it. Our goal here is to figure out what rider is best suited for this bike and what terrain this bike is capable of smashing through. The all-new WFO 9 is dripping with updates from the front to the back. Up front we have a 180mm fork, and out back there's 170mm of CVA controlled suspension that means business. Just like the original bike, this bike yearns for fast, wide open, rough terrain and isn't afraid to show it. With an all-new build, you get modern geometry with adjustable flip chips that allow you to tune the bike to your specific trails. One of the new things on this frame is fully sleeved internal cable routing, keeping cable rattle at bay while also improving shift quality. So let's dive into some of the geometry numbers on this new frame. There's a 480mm reach, a 77-degree seat tube angle, as well as 433mm chainstays for all sizes. With the optional flip chip, you have a 64-degree head tube angle in low and a 64.7-degree head tube angle in the high setting. At 6'1", I found the 480mm reach to be spot on for the numbers that we all enjoy here at the Loam Wolf. As you've heard in our other videos, we really enjoy 475mm, but that 480mm on this big sprung bike really allows you to move around the cockpit when the going gets rough. In addition to that, the 77-degree seat tube angle is really comfortable when the climbing gets steep. It helps keep that weight up over the bars, keeping that front wheel down and traction out back. With the 433mm chainstays, through those tighter sections of trail, even though this is a really big sprung bike at 170 and 180 up front, it really is not a problem to snap through a lot of those tighter sections and then get sideways off the jumps. Earlier we were riding some dirt jumps, and even though, again, this is a big sprung bike, it rides really playful, but then also sits down and is planted when you want it to be. For 2021, there are 5 build options to choose from. 4 of those are SRAM builds, and 1 is the Shimano build, as you can see here in this XT model. All builds feature a Fox 38 up front and a Fox Float X2 out back. All 5 builds this year feature a KS dropper post, 175mm for size large, 150 for medium, and 125 for the smalls. The 5, 4, and 3-star builds feature a DT Swiss wheel set, while the 2-star build features Niner's own 30mm internal width alloy wheel. This bike has me really excited for the evolution of my riding style. As someone that really enjoys to jump, but also loves to just point and shoot and just smash, this bike really is in that gray area of what a big travel enduro bike is capable of. My local zones have a great mix of kind of low elevation bike parking trails and then some awesome steep shuttle trails, and for kind of a one bike to do it all, this is really blending that gap. Again, it's a big sprung bike, but it doesn't ride like it when you're on flatter trails. You do get rewarded when standing up and putting the power down. The rear suspension platform is very supportive on those flatter trails, but really gives you a lot of ramp up when the going gets rough. As someone that really enjoys a more rear biased weight distribution when riding, the 30% sag setting from Niner did a great job of giving me plenty of support when I needed it, but didn't make it too stiff off the top through more chattery terrain. The new Kinematics on this bike, paired with the rear shock tune, does a great job of giving you big hit support while still giving you that pedaling efficiency you need when getting out of the saddle. It may not be a trail bike, but I think you'll be plenty surprised when you get out of the saddle and get the power down on flatter terrain of how much support this bike really gives you. Out of the 5 builds offered, I'm really excited that we had the chance to ride the XT build, as I prefer that over the SRAM offerings. I'm a big index finger shifter, and I really like the shorter levers on those XT brakes. So to touch on some of our critiques So far, after the initial rides, for me being 6'1" with a 35.5-inch inseam, as you've probably heard me say before, I really need a 200 mil dropper, and there is space in this frame for that, so I do wish that Niner may have spec'd a little bit taller dropper post on this build. For this style of bike, I think a Magic Mary Outback would have been a good choice, but depending on your terrain, you might get along with that Hans Dampf really well. Another thing to keep in mind is there's a lot of linkage bolts on this bike, and after our first few rides, we did have some of those come loose, which is not uncommon, but is something to be aware of. The 2021 Niner WFO 9 RDO is for the riders looking for hitting some seriously rough terrain while also shredding the bike park, and even if your terrain's more mellow, you're not going to be sad throwing a leg over this bike day in and day out. We're really excited to pass this bike around the group to get it on different terrains. My locals up in Washington as well down here in Bend. This bike is capable of a lot more than we've already put it through, and I can't wait to spend more time on this. Drew, please let me keep this for a few weeks. Thanks for tuning in on this latest Dissected video. We hope to see you out on the trails.